following show contains adult content. It's not our intent to offend anyone, but we want to inform you that if you are a child under the age of 18 or get offended easily, this next show may not be for you. The content, opinions, and subject matter of these shows are solely the choice of your show hosts and their guests, and not those of the Entertainment Network or any affiliated stations. Any comments or inquiries should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for listening.
Hey everyone, and welcome to 50 Shades of Bullshit. I'm your host, Christine Lalonde, and this is the podcast where we uncover the truth about online dating. Now let's begin. Hey everybody, I'm Christine.
I'm Jada.
And this is 50 Shades of Bullshit. How is everyone today?
I'm not feeling the greatest right now. I'm just going to right out of the bat.
All kinds of stuff is going around. Hey, Jada, how's it going?
Hi, Christine Beanie. How are you?
I'm good. There's a couple things I thought that I'd chat about at the top of the show, just all random shit. But I came across somebody on TikTok today, and I have to talk about this at the top of the show before get it out of the way so we can get right to the show.
Okay.
There is a guy on TikTok. His name is Jacob Proudheart. His last name is Proudheart. He is homeless because he had an apartment where the landlord wouldn't fix the carbon dioxide leak.
Yeah.
And he has 2 dogs, and where he lived, he couldn't find an apartment to let him have the dogs. So he got a camper trailer. Someone gave him a trailer, and he has a truck. He has an F-150 2003 truck, and it's not big enough to pull the trailer, and he needs to start heading down south because it's too cold where he is and it's about to get worse. So he's trying to either trade or find somebody who is giving a car away. He needs a V8 manual 4x4 pickup truck that can tow. And if anybody knows of anybody out there, wherever you are, who can maybe help Jacob Proudheart, I am compelled to help this guy. He's on the spectrum. He is the most gentle, sweet. I've been obsessed. All I've watched all day is all of his TikToks, and he's been on live. And if there is anything that I can help this poor guy with, he has just got the biggest heart. He's so sweet. And I want to try to help him. So if anything this platform can do is help people.
Tell me his name is
Jacob Proudheart. So if anybody could check out his TikTok, maybe you're in Colorado. He is close to...
Oh, he's in Colorado?
Yeah, he's in Welsonburg sign on South Colorado off of I-25. So if there's anybody...
Colorado is my home.
Yes.
That's where all of my family is, and friends and loved ones. So
yeah.
I'm going to... Is his TikTok handle just his name?
Yep. Jacob Proudheart. Okay. Yep. And he just needs to figure out a way to trade trucks or someone help him with that. If I can help him, if we can do what we can here, I would love that. So
absolutely. I will reach out to loved ones.
I just wanted to see if there was anything we can do. I'm literally obsessed with the guy. All I want to do is watch his live. He's so enduring, and he's just this kind soul. Those ones, like one of his things with his live today, he went in to go get food, and at first he waited because there was nobody in there. So then he went in, and then all these people were like right behind him, and he started freaking out. And he said to the person, he was like, I'm sorry, I'm having a really hard time ordering because I can't handle like people being directly behind me and stuff like that. And it was the sweetest thing because you just saw these people just kind of like heart, and they kind of moved for him. And when he turned, they all just smiled at him to let him know that they understood. I just wanted to die. I was like, I want to help you. I just wanted to die. So he was amazing, and I want to keep updated progress on him. If there's people out there who can help, let's do it.
Let's
so
do it.
Today I want to just like get to the topic, if you don't mind, unless you have something else to talk about ahead of show. Hear me jumping ahead. You're all good? No sexy stories from your dating life?
It's been such a crazy day. Let's just hop right in.
Okay. Well, today we're on episode 153. We are 2 weeks away from our 3-year anniversary. So we are episode 153 today. We are exploring reincarnation with this author, Jason Augustus Newcomb. I found him because, everybody knows I'm a witch and I manifest and I do all this stuff. And we talk a lot on here about our tarot cards, and we read and all these fun things. And I found these books on, oh God, what's that thing that everybody orders on? Amazon. Jesus Christ. Oh my God. I found his books on Amazon because he's got all these incredible books on there. And I was like, what the fuck? And so I found him. I went searching I found him on Instagram, and I just was like obsessed. I'm like, Jason, please come on our show. So let me tell you about Jason. He has been learning magic for almost 40 years, and he's now been teaching magic for over 20 years. He is the author of many books, including Sexual Sorcery. Now, do we know why I like him? The New Hermetics and the Book of Magic Power. He has recorded over 200 guided medication. Sorry, slip of the tongue. Meditation practices yoga and magic every day. He also has nearly 20 courses. Jesus fucking Christ, give me strength today. 20 courses in magical development that can all be accessed for one simple $15 a month subscription. And we are going to not only show his website on here, but also I'm going to say it. Maybe not. Let's just bring Jason on, and maybe he can help me with his website.
Oh, you do that.
Jason!
Hello. How are you doing?
For being my recent obsession.
Oh, wow. I mean, that's really very, very nice. I don't know that I'm that many people's recent obsessions. There's maybe one or two.
Well, but thank Shades. You are welcome. So what's really quick off the top of the show, so everybody has it. How do you say your website?
Okay, what I would suggest that people do if they're interested in finding out what I do, that they just go to jasonaugustusnewcomb.com. The website that I gave you is actually it's a site that I teach courses on, and so it's kind of a big weird thing. But jasonaugustusnewcomb.com, you'll get asked to sign up for my mailing list, and once you're on my mailing list, you'll get a message from me every week or two that gives you kind of an indication of the things that I'm up to right now, and opportunities to sign up for that, the courses and stuff. So I mean, my courses are pretty they're pretty in-depth courses on really exploring consciousness. So they may be of interest to some people who are more witchy, but probably not to sort of the general public. just
we have
as a
lot of witchy
preparation.
People around here.
Yeah, I mean, like if you are a hardcore witchy kind of person, then you will get a lot out of what I have to offer. So
I love that. I'm also going to put that and your website in the show notes. So for those of you who are not watching us live, who are listening to us later on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen, you can find us. And I will have his website and the place where you can also subscribe to do his classes and things like that. So let's
Like I
get
said,
into
JasonAugustusNewcomb.com. It's super easy. I mean, it's not that easy, obviously, because it's long, but that's my actual name, and it's probably in whatever the show notes are and the title of the show, so it's pretty easy to get to.
I love it. I said your middle name wrong. I think I said Augustus, and you say Augustus.
No, I say Augustus. If I
You
said
do?
Augustus, it's probably just, I don't know, maybe a.
Maybe it was my brain that
I think
heard it
we better check the
backwards.
tape on that, because I'm pretty sure I didn't say Augustus, but
I don't think you did, Jason. I think Christine.
Okay.
I think I just heard
Christine's
it.
just hearing things.
I am hearing
It's the
things.
ghosts. There's the ghosts in the room. See, they're coming.
See, look at that.
Well,
Well,
go ahead.
no, go ahead, Jada. Mm-mm.
I was just going to say I'm super excited about this topic because I have so many questions about so many things. So to start, can you maybe explain just like the basic principles of reincarnation, but also sexual sorcery and how I mean they're both so different. But that's
how long do I have the floor for discussing the two completely different topics?
I just need, for the listeners that don't know, because I'm familiar with reincarnation, but sexual sorcery is something that's very outside of my scope. So just for people that don't know.
Okay, well, I mean, there is a little bit of a relationship between the two, because sexual magic really has to do with the magic of that energy, which is life. And so reincarnation has to do with like the continuation of life beyond our physical existence. So those two topics aren't completely separate from one another, although, in a practical sense, they usually are. If your sex magic results in you needing to get reincarnated, it was probably a little bit too good that night, like. So sexual magic is about taking the energy of sexuality, desire, the sort of libidinous energy, and releasing it with purpose, essentially. And there are a lot of sort of nuances to doing that, but essentially, when we are creating sexual attraction and excitement, we are tapping into the creative forces of the universe that bring life into existence, and utilizing that to do something other than creating a human life is sexual magic. And that could be done with a partner, or by yourself, or with a whole group of people. There's lots of different ways of exploring that kind of energy, but that's kind of the basic nutshell of it. Reincarnation itself is a theory that basically almost all ancient cultures believed in one way or another, including our Judeo-Christian culture that we all sort of have been influenced by. It's mentioned multiple times in both the Old Testament and the New Testament. The ancient Greeks definitely believed in it, at least in an esoteric sense. Plato writes about it in, I think it's the Republic. There's a sequence that discusses, how that works. Obviously, Indian philosophy, in its various forms, discusses it in numerous ways. The thing about reincarnation is that there's, we can believe in various things and think they might be true, but we don't really have any way of knowing that whether reincarnation exists or not, simply because we haven't, the threshold that you have to go to discover whether reincarnation is true is one that we never come back from. So there's
true story.
Yeah.
There's a lot of story evidence. There's lots of children that remember things from what they believe to be previous incarnations. There's lots of
I have stacks and stacks of books about reincarnation.
But is that similar to like if you have an experience, right? So sometimes I have an experience and I'm like, oh my gosh, I think maybe in a past life I was, I don't know, such and such and such, because something is so familiar to me. But even though that's not like who I am in my current life. Does that make sense? So does
Yeah,
that
I have
into
I have an
reincarnation?
extremely liberal view of these things. If it's something that's useful for you, if it somehow empowers you or makes you able to live your life in a more effective and happy way, it's
Mhm.
probably useful to at least explore that as a possibility. If it's
Mm.
something that you're utilizing to, excuse yourself from behaving poorly or something that hurts you or makes you feel sad, then it's
Yeah.
probably not all that useful. Um, I think personally, I think belief in general in almost anything is sort of silly because, other than the things we can see with our eyes in front of us, all these
Yeah.
sort of metaphysical things, it's more useful to just explore them as possibilities and see if they yield fruit in some way that makes us feel,
Mhm.
that we're uh, enjoying life further and getting more pleasure from our existence or connecting with others on a deeper way. All those things can be useful, but a lot of people utilize belief in order to sort of close a door rather than open a door. So I think that exploring things from an experimental and perceptual level is much more interesting than really just believing in things, or even me giving some sort of logical explanation for something isn't really going to change anything about your life. And I know that unfortunately our whole relationship here is just about conversation. It's not going to be about experience. We can't really experience that much about reincarnation as a conversation. So we can talk about it. And I think that there are a number of different ways in which you can explore reincarnation, and for some people they are very useful, and for other people they are less useful.
Mhm.
I was trained as a hypnotist about 30
Oh,
years ago and
Mhm.
utilize it, and I've done many past life regressions with people, and for some people the experience of a past life regression is something that changes their life. They feel like, oh, I understand something that about myself and about the whole course of my life, that
Yeah.
without that understanding I wouldn't be able to even comprehend anything. And other people are like, yeah, that was interesting, I feel like it was kind of just like a fantasy, I don't know. So like every person's mileage with these things kind of is different.
I also think that it's funny when people talk about soulmates,
Mm.
when literally soulmate is the true definition of repeating life, time after time with a connection that is romantic or love, in some way.
Sure.
And a lot of people who talk about that are say they don't believe in reincarnation, but yet here they are saying, they have a soulmate, they're looking for a soulmate, or where's their freaking soulmate?
Well, I mean, I hate to be a big nerd, but again, the concept of soulmates really goes back to Plato.
Mhm.
In the Symposium, there's a long section that discusses the idea that we were, originally sort of a bisexual being that was divided, and some more
Interesting.
masculine and some more
Mm.
feminine. And it actually kind of explains, LGBTQ in a way that is pretty open minded for something that was like 3,000 years ago that it was written. Um, but the the idea of a soulmate really kind of can be traced largely back to that dialogue, or I mean, it probably reflects things that were going on culturally at that time as well. But the concept of soulmates, it's a really vague term at this point. That yeah, I mean, maybe it has to do with reincarnation, maybe it has to do with just people who fit your particular personality types and neuroses in a way that that you go together well, at least for a time. So I mean, it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, as does reincarnation. Some people think of reincarnation as a literal thing, that it has to do with you know a um, a soul that is going through a big journey, and other people just think of it sort of as a way of understanding things that are going on in our current life.
Right.
Some people don't take it all that literally, but they still find it useful to explore.
Mhm.
Anastasia said, "Do we have soulmates?" That was the question she asked.
I can't. I personally think we do. Whether people believe what Jason was just saying, whether they believe it's souls reincarnating over and over cycling of lifetimes that are in each other's lives, or that, you believe like what he said with Plato, the separating of the soul and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Within the Platonic model, it seems like there's probably more than one possible way that you could reconfigure yourself back into a singularity. But I mean, like I said, believing in things, if it's useful for you, if it empowers you, then great. But if it makes you stay with someone who's abusive or unpleasant because you think they're your soulmate, that's probably not all that useful to continue with. So yeah, I mean, I think it's like, or also if you feel like there's someone who you really like and you'd like to be with, but you feel like somehow they're not your soulmate, that also probably isn't all that empowering either. So I worry about really taking things that are linguistic structures that are things that we make up in our human minds, and then dedicating our lives to them so fully that we end up restricting ourselves from enjoying our basic experience of being.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, because when I work on my manifesting, one of the main things for me is, envision where I think I would like to be, but then I have to let it go and be okay with no expectations on the outcome, because the outcome will more than likely be bigger, better, and more incredible than I could have ever imagined. And if I stick with what I am limited in my belief or thought or feelings, then I won't get very far. I'm going to hit a glass ceiling.
Right. I absolutely agree with that 100%. And I actually think that, including that within your manifesting is important to say, or something even better, like whatever I can imagine is just what I think it might be. But I'm just, I can only see a limited amount of what's around me. So if the universe has something better in mind, that's going to, make things even more juicy. Yeah, absolutely. Make that happen instead.
Great. So I have a couple of things that our guests, our listeners are asking. Country Corners Gazette wanted to know the name of the books again, and they are Book of Magic Power.
Here, I'll show.
Sexual. Okay, great.
I've got several. I don't know if my camera's like reversing or not, but that's
there you go.
Book of Magic Power.
The Book of Magic Power. Then we've also got Sexual Sorcery. There. Oh, I like that.
And these are all available. Are these available on Amazon?
They're all on Amazon. They're sometimes in stores, but more and more rarely because they've been in print for a long time. So.
And then the new Hermetics.
Hermetics. And I psychically knew that, so I was already lifting it up when you said it. And then there's also my first book is called 21st Century Mage, and it does look like a box of Tide. It was the early 2000s, and that seemed like a good idea at the time. It wasn't my design. I actually was very upset when I first saw it. And my most recent book probably is this one. It's called Evolutionary Meditation Science, and it's about sort of the simple structure that, like, meditation is described in a bunch of different ways by a bunch of different people, but there's really one thing that's being described, and in a lot of different ways. And so I kind of identify and help you to kind of realize that a lot of people think that meditation is hard because they're like, well, I try and focus on something and then my mind goes off in a million different directions. And that is what meditation is. It's about understanding that process of the fact that your mind isn't really the essence of you, and in fact it's just a bunch of stuff that's going on inside of you, and you don't really need to worry about it, the fact that it's going off in lots of different directions. So that's one of my more recent books.
All the years that were wasted on me thinking I couldn't meditate, or being afraid or frightened of meditation, because I thought I had to focus and clear and be this certain thing. And then when I started getting into it, during COVID, I thought, what the fuck? I kept getting sign after sign after sign about meditation and manifesting, and I didn't know what either really was. So I really started to dive into it, and then I realized, wow, meditation is really exactly what you said. I just chill for a little while. I let my mind go where it needs to go and tell me things it needs to tell me, and feel the things it needs to feel.
Yeah. I have a tough time. Well, not a tough time, But because in my industry of matchmaking and all the stuff that I do and all the conversations I have in a day and
I mean,
all
that sounds really interesting. Let's talk about that rather than reincarnation. Like,
We do. We do.
but I take on
so
many different conversations and energies, and I have to meditate sometimes in the morning to just set myself up for like a decent day. But it's so hard because I could be silenced for like 2 minutes and then it's like, such and such said this. What are you going to do about this? You've got to coach this person on this. You've got to, it's like my mind I don't necessarily know how to quiet it when I meditate.
Well, I mean, there's a bunch of different tools that you utilize to, work along with that, like mantras or visualization objects and those sorts of things. But really, like those are just tools to help you to recognize that in reality, that those voices that are trying to tell you that you need to do this or that aren't actually you at all. Those are just sort of mental constructs that have taken on somewhat of a life of their own. And in fact, the witness of what it is that of both the desire to meditate and the things that are coming up to distract from it is actually the essence of what you are. And so really the distractions and stuff don't really matter all that much as long as you are staying present in what it is that you're doing.
And I heard something when you were talking about that. I heard take those thoughts and turn them around into questions on how to, for your higher power, how to approach it. So if you got, oh, this guy said this, and how am I going to do that? Then turn it into a question or an opening for your higher power to tell you what you want.
Sure. I mean, that's a perfectly reasonable approach to things. It's not like if you have the intention of silencing your mind and being like completely centered and not thinking about things and something else coming up, just shifting to a different purpose isn't quite the same thing. But if you're really just looking for like the right way to conduct your day, then yeah, for sure, that's going to be helpful for you.
So I want to talk about what do you think, believe about reincarnation, and what is it? How does it play in your life?
Okay, I'm going to be 100% honest. I actually really try not to have any beliefs about anything whatsoever. because
no expectations. I love it.
A belief is just a model that you create that places you. It's a barrier between you and what's actually happening. So I have lots of experimental models that I might use, but they're never beliefs. And so I mean I think that the likely scenario for me is that in fact, we are all one consciousness that has taken many different forms in order to explore the experience of having those many different experiences.
That's what I think.
There is really no difference between you and I. And in fact, right now I am speaking to myself, trying to enlighten myself about what the truth is. And when you speak to me, you are speaking to yourself, trying to understand. We're both in this, having the same journey from two different vantage points, looking to understand what the universe is, but ultimately at play, because the universe is of not really of very much importance whatsoever, and yet is beautiful and ecstatic and wonderful in lots of ways, but not because it's we worry about so many things in our lives. Am I going to succeed at this? Is this going to work out the way that I want it to? But ultimately, it really doesn't matter. And both whether you succeed or fail, whether you're happy or sad, you're having the experience of life, and that's better than not having the experience of life. So all of it is ultimately joyous and ecstatic in the end. And the person who, at the end of their life, there's no one who says, I wouldn't like another breath. So all these breaths that we are enjoying right now, with absolute freedom to have more with nothing in between, the current one and the next one, should really be grateful that we're having that experience. But what specifically is happening with reincarnation, I mean, there's so many different models for understanding it. The one that seems most logical to me is that, we, in our experience as embodied beings, we're in a time-space experience, but once we are no longer incarnated, we're no longer in that time-space experience, which eliminates any kind of contradictions between the idea of having a soul that could be contacted by a medium and also being reincarnated into another body. Like, those things lose their meaning if you realize that once we're no longer in this embodied experience, we're no longer restricted by any kind of time limits whatsoever. So we could speak to our incarnation 10,000 years from now as easily as we could speak to an incarnation of ourselves 10,000 years ago.
Wow.
Or various other people's incarnations as well. So there's really no reason to think that anything different. So yeah, that's my basic model for exploring things. I'm not going to say that it's a belief.
Well, model belief.
Model is something that I'm really willing to discard at any time. A belief is something that I've kind of become stuck with.
Tomato.
Yeah. There's so many questions coming in.
I know.
I see it. I can't see them. I'm on my phone, so I can't really see what it is. So you guys have to.
So Charles earlier said deja vu, and I'd like to talk about that for a second, because Charles, I don't believe that deja vu has anything to do with reincarnation, because we're not reincarnated into the same fucking life every time. So my past, my future, I'm not seeing something that's a deja vu from a past life or a future life. I believe, or model, so you changed my language here, that we live in different dimensions and timelines. And we're the same person in those dimension and timelines that's running through this, idea of time and space and whatever right now. But we're living different versions. Some are higher, some are lower vibrations, some are higher selves, some, you don't have kids, but you have the same kind of life. You're the same person in another life you have, you know what I mean? So for me, I see it as a deja vu, as a thin, brief look into something that's happening in another dimension or another timeline.
What's useful about my model that I described earlier is that it totally embraces that, and yet it doesn't guarantee that that's true, but it doesn't in any way conflict with what you just said. So
right.
But I see what he said. He was basing it off of what I was saying earlier when I said something seems so familiar. So that's his point, was to the deja vu. So
gotcha.
That makes sense. Sense.
Sorry, Charles. I thought that's what lost in translation.
So with that, I mean, there are things, like if we take the idea of karma, which again is another potential belief system or a potential model that we can work with and abandon if it's no longer useful. But if we have repeated patterns through multiple incarnations, and like you said, possibly through multiple dimensions of things, we can identify something, a simple experience or a person that we meet with something. I don't know why I feel like I'm connected with this person. I don't know why, I feel like the conversation I just had reminds me of something. I feel like I've already had that conversation. We can have those experiences based on the idea that we have in previous experiences had that same kind of an experience before, and that in fact it's being drawn to us again because we are in this pattern of doing kind of the same thing over and over again. So I feel like deja vu, to me, it's possible that it indicates that we're kind of repeating something that we need to break free of. Again, it's not a belief; it's an idea that's to be explored, but it's possible that if we're feeling those senses of like, or grow from, not necessarily break free from. I don't want to
Right.
Yeah, it's an opportunity to recognize something that you need to look at and see why that's happening in a way that makes you feel like I've done this before. Is it something? Is it that you're about to go through a test that you've been through a bunch of times and failed, or is it an opportunity to get out of the situation you've been in, or is it something that you literally just keep doing over and over again, and you're just beating yourself up for no reason?
I want to address a couple of things that Mickey said. Oh my God, Mickey!
So many questions. I know.
First of all, Mickey said, "Don't you like what your mind is telling you, Jada? Why do you want to shut it up?" And then Mickey goes on to say, "Oh, I see it. His shadow is not all the way attached." I think what Mickey's referring to there is not that. Is that Jason, you had said earlier, we're all of the same conscious. We are each other. We're all from the same collective mind. So, when you said you and I speaking, Jada, I, and you are all speaking to each other about the same thing. We're having the same but different experience because we are teaching ourselves about, the different sides of things. Am I right on that, or am I way off?
Are you talking to me?
I don't fucking know what I'm talking about.
Well, wait, I want to address it first and say,
it sounds
Mickey,
good.
I just wanted to say to Mickey, my thoughts are wild because I talk to so many people in a day. So yes, sometimes I absolutely love what my thoughts are, but sometimes I'm like, Jesus Christ, like
because you're tired of hearing it. You want to clear it.
Yeah. Yep, exactly.
And
can I ask you a question, Jada? How many people do you talk to in a day?
Oh my gosh, it depends. So today I probably talked to about 40 different people.
40 different people. How long do you talk to them
yesterday, well, it depends on what I'm talking to them about. It could be a different matchmaker with regard to a collaboration. It could be a client that reached out to me really quickly because they're having a meltdown. It could be feedback from someone that just went out that I've been trying to reach. It could be someone who saw or heard me on a podcast or saw a LinkedIn post and they want to know more. I mean, it's so much. But yesterday I talked to maybe 10 people, but it's just like, it's
still
different
a lot.
Energies all the time. Yesterday I probably worked until, I don't even know, it was probably like 11 o'clock by the time I went to bed, but like I'm processing and like thinking of, I really want to help this person. Let me send this book to this person. Let me do this to this person. Let me like come up with some techniques for this person. So my mind is just, it's always going. It's always going.
I love that. Well, it's the same. I feel you. I talk to way too many fucking people in a day. But I want to talk about what everybody's laughing about here and trying to figure out what is going on. They think your shadow is detached from you, Jason. You remember at the earlier report? Yeah. We've got a mirrored effect going on behind Jason.
Sure why.
We were talking ahead of the show when we were getting ready to go on that I thought it looked like a ghost, and everybody's saying, "Hey, look at that! What is that? Is that him not connected?"
It's my powers, and everyone should sign up for my classes so they can get those powers as well.
And they too can have that same power,
right? The magic of power. Anastasia, is that why Christine feels compelled to help the guy she talked about? Or because we are all of the same collective? Yes. I think some people in life just care about others a lot. And others in life don't care about others at all. And I think they're just different sides of ourselves. People are different in many ways. Like I have 3 or 4 or 5 different sides of myself. Call me Sybil. I don't care. But each one of my daughters have a part of a specific piece of me that their personality is like my personality. Like my feminine side is my daughter, Alexa. She's just all feminine, all girl, all sexy. Rissa is the masculine tomboy side. And Ella is kind of a combo of those, but she's more of my humor and comedy and dry wit and sarcasm. So I think that different bodies embodying in this world, we're, like you said, Jason, we're all connected as a collective. We're just different parts of ourselves.
Yeah. I'm very curious, Jason.
It's a model.
It's a model. I'm curious as to what led you to explore just the concept of not only reincarnation, but sexual
sorcery.
Sorcery. So what led you
magic?
I mean, I can back up and give you like a really complete story, but I mean, just the simplest thing is that, you know, I really like sex, and at a certain point, it was made clear to me that there's like a secret, you know, Western sex magical tradition. I was like, yeah, I want to find out more about that for sure.
We practice that, and we talk about it on the show almost all
I
the
haven't
time.
practiced it yet, Christine, but I know you are like the queen of it. Yeah.
So,
It's
yeah,
daily
well, I
ritual.
mean, that's good to know, Christine. I don't know.
Well, I'm a two-parter witch. Okay, there's of all the things, the clairvoyant, the sensory, I'm all of it. I'm absolutely all of it. I have little parts of so many different parts of magic, but for me, when I do manifesting or spells, I call myself a kitchen witch because I use, you know, herbs and spices and, you know, earthy things like that, things that grow. Okay. But I derive my magical energy, powers, or whatever to be able to use that or conjure that or figure it out through sex. That is my power source. So,
yeah, I mean, I think that's true of all people who do magic. I mean, whether it's really sublimated or it's really direct. I think that our connection. I mean, ultimately, we were talking about how we're all one thing, right? So our whole everything is about trying to get back to being that one thing again, right? So like that's like the sexual energy is a big component of that, you know, that quest to be united with things and to unite things. But yeah, for sure. I mean, utilizing a herbal magic or you know, like saying incantations, all of those things are ultimately, they have a sexual component to it, whether those are really hidden in them or direct, for sure.
I love that. I found your books because I'm doing my own right now. I I'm doing one on helping people understand the basics of getting started for baby witches, baby magic, to know how to find it within themselves and be comfortable within themselves, but then give them a little bit of guidance and talk about manifesting, sex magic, and different kinds of spells and, you know, connotations and things like that. So I was doing some research and I was looking at different types of books that were really popular on Amazon, and yours were some of the top ones that I saw, and I was like, I gotta know, Jason.
Well, that's wonderful to hear. I'm not sure, you know, if that's really totally true, but yeah, I mean, you know,
Jada, do I lie?
No, she does not lie.
I am brutal. I am honest. I tell too much. That's my problem. And people think I might be fibbing because I go way too like excited about things. And they're like, you're making that shit up. And I'm like, I don't.
So yeah, I mean, my publishing career has been interesting because I started out with you know, Wiser Books, the sort of a traditional, you know, occult publisher, and then I've moved to more publishing my own stuff as I've gotten, you know, older and have a little bit of an audience. So, but yeah, it's been an interesting adventure writing books and creating things for the magical community. I've actually, like, books is really just only one component of the things that I've created. Like, I've created a lot of stuff.
I love that.
I have a lot of audio meditations. If you go to JasonAugustusNewcomb.com, you can find all this stuff too.
I'm going tonight to meditate.
I was just gonna say,
Jason, where are you based out of?
Yeah,
I live in Sarasota, Florida. I'm originally from Boston, Massachusetts, but I've lived here for a while.
Oh, that redeems you. I don't know. Florida, Massachusetts. Jesus, you're fucked both ways. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, we literally just got hit by a pretty severe hurricane.
Horrible
Right?
hurricane.
All the
just last
hurricanes.
week.
Who can live
And
in Florida? It's hot as fuck.
literally, the eye went over my head. You know, like it was a very intense experience.
Wow, I bet it was. I have somebody that is an older gentleman, 80s. He came to Hollywood to be an actor, and so he's been in Hollywood for like 75, 60 years as a working actor, and he's also a numerologist. Numerology, whatever that is. He does that, and he is he's the best I've ever found. And I keep talking about him coming on the show, and he's going to, but he struggles because he's an older gentleman, and it's harder for him to understand the webs, the internet and computers.
Are you wanting me to tell him that it's easy to do? Because all I had to do was press one button, and I was in the studio.
So he wrote a book about, I think it's titled "The Night Marilyn Monroe Kissed Me." And he has this really crazy, wild stories about Hollywood, and he's amazing. He wrote the book, and he's ready to self-publish. And he was ready to publish, and he couldn't find a publisher, and he didn't know what to do. And so I suggested that he self-publish, and he asked me if I knew any authors who would give him advice. And I'm curious.
Basically, Jason, she's saying she's putting your name in the hat. I feel like that's where we're going with this.
I mean, I'm actually a pretty bad example because I only self-published once I had already sold, several thousand books through someone else doing the work for me. So I'd kind of already, been given an audience before it happened. I mean, ultimately, the world we live in today is filled with possibility and filled with noise. So I mean, if he wants to stand out, he just needs to be a presence. And I mean, it sounds like you guys are fans of his, so maybe like you can just promote his thing over and over again. I mean, self-publishing a book is extremely like I've got a few pet peeves about self-publishing books. Like get a proper, if you're gonna make a book. If it's not a web page, get a proper publishing program and actually, justify your text and make it look like a book, and don't just publish your Microsoft Word document, with looking all weird. But other than that, it's super easy to, there's multiple platforms, and Amazon has a platform that's really pretty user friendly to just upload your stuff to them. And but I know people who have done that, and they've sold lots of copies. Some people have sold more books than I've sold doing that. And I've also known some people who publish their stuff through that, and they've never sold a copy ever. So it's really kind of about what you do with your concepts, and who you get to be interested in it. Maybe I've gotten some people interested in what I do tonight. Maybe I've gotten no one interested. I really have no idea right now. But I'm sorry. What was your question?
You never know.
You never know.
What's the software, really quick, that you said that he should run his book through to make sure everything is really like a book?
I mean, ideally like Adobe PageMaker. I mean, there's lots of like free ones out there, though. I mean, what I'm suggesting is just make sure that if you look at what a book looks like inside the book, it's got like
it's a book.
Pages that kind of look they look like a book. And then there are some people who publish books, and it's just sort of a random.
It looks more like a manuscript sometimes,
right?
Yeah. But I mean, like that's ultimately my personal pet peeve. It may be that lots of people are like, Jason, that's old fashioned. You're dealing with something that isn't really an issue at all anymore. Maybe, I don't know. I have no idea. So I mean, that's my personal advice, but isn't necessarily like important in today's marketplace. I have no idea.
Well, I want to talk about two books really quick before we go. Our time is running out. My two favorite reincarnation books, that are three of them actually. The first one is called Many Lives, Many Masters. I think that's my favorite. I've read it at least 4 times. It's amazing. This one here is also one of my favorites. Only Love is Real, a story of soulmates reunited.
I don't know that book, but
It's so good. And then this one by Sylvia Brown, The Psychic's Guide to the Other Side, Our World and Beyond and Back. And it's kind of more about psyche, but she does talk about reincarnation and stuff. So
right. The only one of those that I'm really familiar with is the first. Unfortunately,
Many Lives,
I'm not
Many
familiar
Masters.
with any.
Yeah.
They're amazing. I don't have Many Lives, Many Masters right now because I loaned out my 2 copies to friends, and then now they're gonna give it back. So anyway, I wanted to say thank you, Jason, for coming on our show today. You're awesome.
It's been my pleasure.
Let's have you back to talk about your model for sexual sorcery.
I'd be happy to do that for sure.
Yeah, let's do that.
I also can I do a little bit of plugging before I go?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to be starting a Kickstarter project soon for for the past couple of years I've been making a lot of dice oracles, and those are basically like you read tarot cards or tea leaves or something like that. These are dice, and there's actually a bunch of them that go back into prehistory. I've got a new one that's coming out. Let me just grab these. Okay, so these ones are called Tatwa Chakra dice, and they basically are a dice system that with 2 dice that you can do a reading with. And then there's. I'm sorry, I wasn't really totally prepared here. I'm just going to get one of them out. This is a 4-sided dice, which is there's a kind of divination, probably one of the oldest divination systems in the world, involves using sheep's knuckle bones in order to do divination, which is kind of a little bit gross. So it basically produces a 4-sided thing. So I use a 4-sided die to recreate that. And so if you sign up for my mailing list at Jason Augustus, not Augustus, but Augustus Newcomb.com, you'll get notifications of when the Kickstarter starts. And these are all really like fun, inexpensive things. They will all be available by Christmas time if people want to give them as gifts and stuff. So I've literally got over a dozen different dice divination systems that are really fun to use and fun to give as gifts. So
I love it. Yay.
Awesome.
Well, thank you for being here,
Jason.
It was wonderful meeting both of you. I'd like to ask you both about I do interviews too sometimes. I'm curious about what makes you guys tick as well. So maybe we can have that conversation in the future as well.
I love that. Absolutely. Well, you're in our wheelhouse of family now, so here we are. Thank you, Jada. I love you. And Jason, you're the best. And to all of our listeners who come every week, thank you again. Want to say you guys are amazing. We love the interaction. Thanks for coming. Same time, same place next week. And until that, let's keep this shit real. If you enjoyed this episode, please share with your friends. Like and follow us on Instagram at 50 Shades of _bullshit and Facebook at 50 Shades of Bullshit. Thanks so much for listening, and we really hope to see you again next week.